they're left with now would be that warrior build, which is a taunt warrior, but even still not super strong. They may just be tempted to fight fire with fire and go with the warlock if they do end up losing this mirror. But we got to get through the mirror first and foremost. So Kylands versus Frozen, game number 1. Will it be another sweep for Evolution, or will RNG be the first team to shut them down?
Well, Kylan's getting the perfect start as well, just having that Prince Keleseth in the hand, whereas for Frozen, it's always nice to have Edwin, but not when you're off the coin going first. So I imagine he's going to toss away Edwin and Leroy here, keeping the Firefly. Whereas for Kylands, of course, he didn't get rid of too much. He had that backstab, he had the SI7 agent, both perfect for trying to keep the tempo in this mirror.
We see a teched copy of Shadowblade in the build for Evolution. That is a fantastic tool in mirrors and up against other tempo-based decks. So maybe that could help them keep that board presence even in the face of those Keleseth buffs. So Evolution will be at a bit of a disadvantage, but they do have some fantastic tools in the early game to try and mitigate that that lack of Keleseth buff of their own.
Yeah, we haven't seen either a Vicious Fledgling or Shaku yet for RNG. There are only 3 cards that haven't been revealed from their rogue, so potentially they could have either, but that certainly seems to be that 3-drop spot is either Shaku or Vicious Fledgling. But you're completely right in the mirror. Shaku seems to be very effective, and now this is actually gone from alright and pretty good to absolutely fantastic for Kylands. Having the captain to follow up after Keleseth a little bit later is going to be brilliant to bring Patches onto the board.
Now he just has to decide, does he want to get rid of this coin to get Keleseth out quickly, or hold onto it to coin into a 3-drop, or potentially into that Sarnite Chain Gang? But no, if you can get Keleseth down as early as possible, you generally do.
Yeah, like, there is some debate for actually keeping the coin, but I suppose because he can just dagger up next turn, he's got a minion on the board that trades into this Firefly. He just wants to be able to make sure that his next minion he draws is going to have that value. For example, if he draws into another Saronite Chain Gang this turn, he'll be very happy because then it has the value and it's not just going to be bog standard 2-3.
The Envenom weapon actually could be very relevant going forward. It gives your weapon poisonous, so probably will not be seeing Frozen utilize that with the Shadowblade, as Shadowblade will likely be able to clean up 2 minions by itself. But if you can Envenom just a dagger later on, use it for a kill on a Cobalt Scalebane, for instance, that's massive value.
Yeah, really good value. You're completely right. I mean, I suppose you could use it in conjunction with the Shadowblade, just because then you could maybe take out like a big Edwin and not take any damage from it, for example. But you'd imagine you'd want to get the value on just a plain old dagger. And as we expected, Kylan's just daggering up himself here, but he does have another SI7 agent in hand. So all these tools next turn to try and regain board control.
Yeah, primed for its South Sea Captain with that buffed Patches, or a backstab SI to take down whatever Frozen may play this turn, except for Shaku.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit tricky for Kylan's, and that might change his play ever so slightly, because you're not going to put one of those SI7 agents on the board now, really. And there's Patches as well. That's the worst draw he could have got. That happens so often, just as you're waiting. You wait those extra turns to try and get Captain on the board, and then Patches just ruins your day.
That is a substantial punish for Kylands, but nothing he could have done there. You couldn't have physically played a pirate any sooner. Little bit of breathing room potentially for Frozen, as Kylands now can't develop 2 threats this turn. Have to see what he decides to go with. If the Captain comes down, it is easily taken out by the Shadowblade from Frozen.
Yeah, so now with that Patches being drawn, I imagine you're probably just going to go backstab into SI7 agent potentially. Just get rid of that Flame Elemental that's on the board. At least it makes the trade a little bit more difficult for your opponent. It forces them, in your opinion, to actually use their dagger and use 2 mana to do so.
I don't know, you could backstab SI this turn and then hold on to Patches SI for next turn. But no, Kylan's just going to go with the strict SI7 agent development. That Captain with the Patches is just a little bit too valuable to throw away either piece. And the Spectral Pillager now picked up for Frozen as well. That is a 6 mana 5/5 Battle Cry, deal damage equal to the amount of cards you've played already this turn.
Yeah, that could come in handy a little bit later, maybe to find a little bit extra burst towards your opponent's face. But a buffed up captain now being picked up by Kylins, which he can play with Patches if he wants to finally get this value out of Patches and trade off effectively against Shaku. So a nice turn available for Frozen if he wants. He can of course go face with Flame Elemental, Shadow Step it back, and play Varspine Slayer to take out this captain and trade off with the Patches. But maybe he sees that as too much resources, especially considering you can just kill off Patches comfortably with the Flame Elemental on board. But then you are leaving that South Sea captain up.
It is a lot to expend this turn. Frozen also could go with override the Shadowblade, Dagger, and Venom weapon. Kill off the South Sea captain and run the Flame Elemental into the Patches, but then you're not developing anything of your own. So I would expect this to maybe just be a Cobalt Scalebane turn. Kill off the captain.
You've seen that your opponent's kept some cards though. So are you worried about Valspine? Are you worried about Backstab?
Absolutely. But I don't think that Frozen can put himself in a position to not develop something this turn.
Yep.
You need to keep putting pressure on. As soon as you cede that initiative to your opponent, then it's very difficult to get it back. Especially if Kylins has follow-up, which he is sure to, and it is buffed follow-up.
Yeah, this is going to be quite nice for Kylins now. He can use that Backstab and the SI7 agent. And actually just his weapon as well. Doesn't even need to waste Patches. He can keep Patches going towards face. And then he stays so far ahead on board. But at least Frozen didn't put a lot of resources into actually just removing that captain. So it means if Kylins does get quite far ahead, maybe gets a Bone Mare onto something, generates a big minion, Frozen still has that Varspine Slayer available to try and get a swing turn, try and get back into this game. Kylins has taken quite a considerable amount of damage, but he does have a very big lead on this board.
Yeah, Frozen falling further and further behind. The Saronite is a decent pickup, but it's challenged on board by the SI7 agent.
But I imagine you will Dagger take down this Patches.
Then the only reasonable follow-up is the Saronite.
So, in terms of pickups, it wasn't too bad. The thing is, 2/2/3s on the board for 4 mana doesn't feel that bad usually, but when your opponent's already played Keleseth and you know that they could do exactly the same and play 2/3/4s, then it feels a little bit awkward.
Frozen going to take his time, think over every possibility. The Spectral Pillager this turn is also an option if you want to just try and get the SI7 agent off the board very quickly. Try and force that trade. But yeah, it is going to be what we initially thought.
Yeah, just making the most effective use of the mana. If it wasn't such an easy trade onto Patches, there could have been some consideration to Shadow Stepping back your Saronite Chain Gang and putting 3/2/3s on the board, but that would only happen if you had already had a Dagger charge. A 3/2 charge found for Kylins. Deckhand is going to be able to clear up one of these 2/3s very comfortably, which means he can once again clear the board, which he'll be very happy about because it's going into turn 7. If he hadn't have picked up that South Sea Deckhand, then actually there would have been 1 minion surviving.
And going into turn 7 for Frozen, that would have been potentially very very scary for Kylins. But Kylins even does have the option to just drop this captain alongside the Deckhand. The Deckhand can trade over one of the Saronite Chain Gangs and then does not even die.
And this is the problem when you don't get Keleseth, but your opponent does, and you get behind as the rogue. You don't really have the comeback mechanics like a Fan of Knives, for example, that can just clear off those minions that have taken all those value trades. And you have to use something like a Varspine Slayer just to clear off a small minion that really you want to be saving back for quite a big guy.
Yeah, I mean, you can absolutely beat an opponent who's played Keleseth when you have not, but you need to be pretty reasonably ahead in the beginning, and you need to be able to maintain that lead for the entire game. That just was not possible for Frozen this time around.
No, and he's still not able to get any value out of one of these Varspines either. So I imagine we're probably just going to see him stick another Scalebane onto the board and just hope it contests this 4/2 and 3/3 ever so slightly. I mean, best case scenario for Frozen is he trades off the 4/1, puts a Scalebane on the board, his opponent is forced to use his hero power and SI7 agent, and then has something poor to put on the board afterwards. But with 2 cards being there, one of them has been kept back this whole time. Frozen is going to be a little bit worried about what might be coming.
Yeah, I mean, could it be Leroy?
Could be Leroy.
Could Frozen just be looking at a potential...
Could be a Bone Mare.
Could he just be dead if it's Leroy Shadow Step? Bone Mare would also be very, very scary going to turn 7 for Kylan's. The Argent Commander pickup,
well, that trades
actually
perfectly
fantastic.
into a Scalebane. Has a 5/3, and of course the Divine Shield is there. But I don't blame him for just keeping this back, having the possibility for lethal next turn by having that charge of the 5 going towards face.
Well, you commander the Cobalt Scalebane, throw 7 to face. I don't like leaving this Scalebane up.
Well, if you
regardless.
Yeah, so you can kill it off right with your face.
Yes, and then you do end up with a wider board than just a commander on board would have been, getting to keep around the SI7 agent. So as long as Kylan's kills this, I think he's fine. But, I mean, he's probably fine either way, let's be realistic. But you don't want to leave a Bone Mare target up for your opponent. That's just unnecessarily risky.
Well, he's trying to say, if I take out this Scalebane, am I still going to have lethal? The answer is probably yes.
Probably.
But he wanted to count it all in his head, do all the math and make sure. There's the Bone Mare, but nothing to put it on. As Frozen now is just going to show what he received earlier. He can take 2 minions off the board, but unfortunately, there's going to be quite a bit of damage heading towards him next turn.
1 damage off lethal for Kylan's with that Argent Commander coming down. Frozen considering, should he Shadow Step this Vile Spine?
He may actually be thinking about it as well, because then there's only 1 card left in your opponent's hand. Then next turn you might be able to get some sort of shenanigans. If you draw like a Swashbuckler, you can then Swashbuckler into Vile Spine,
Yeah, and then
remove 2 big minions.
Kylan's picks up like Backstab on the draw.
Yeah.
Or Cold Blood with no minions to play. Maybe you stabilize, but you're very, very low.
Swashbuckler just to look for that 1 extra damage. That isn't 1 extra damage, but that is an Assassinate, which could come in handy in case anything goes considerably wrong for Kylan's. But I imagine you play this safe, I would have thought. Like, you could put your opponent down to 1, but I don't think you need to. You want to clear off this this Vile Spine, because the only way you are going to lose is by giving some sort of Bone Mare target.
Yeah, so even if Commander comes down, you could trade the Captain and the Weapon. You go to 10. Or the Commander can just go in. Then you're left with 4 reasonable minions on the board. And how does Frozen deal with that? Even if it's, you know, a Keleseth plus Bone Mare, that's only 6 attack. Argent Commander and the Dagger go in. You have lethal behind it. So, yeah.
I mean, it could have been a bit of a worry for Kylan's, because if he had gone down to like maybe 12, there would have been a possibility for Frozen Leroy into Shadow Step into Leroy or something like that.
With the
because he has the poison
poisonous
as well, yeah. But at 13, he is comfortable because there wouldn't be enough for... Or would there? If there was a Cold Blood as well, then that becomes a little bit scary.
Have we seen Cold Bloods from Evolution's Rogue deck? We've seen only 22 out of 30 cards, and I believe no Cold Bloods so far, but it is definitely possible that there is 1 or even 2 copies in the deck. So there were certainly some lethal opportunities for Frozen there. Kylan's wanted to play around, but as we can see, none of those possible cards were actually in hand.
Unfortunately, Frozen can just, well, do nothing, pretty much. He's looking at the cards you generated from the Swashbucklers earlier. They're not going to help him out, as Kylan's takes the first victory here. So, no 3-0 sweep for Evolution today.
Could be seeing another come from behind.
Maybe.
You know, maybe it's Old Boys Day again. But that is certainly a shakeup. After we saw Pavel sweep TSM yesterday, now RNG in the mirror has gotten the win in game number 1, and Evolution will have to attempt to counter this Rogue deck now. Maybe they'll be bringing out a deck we haven't seen quite yet, but it is going to be Old Boy up to bat.
And I imagine this is probably going to be Zoo as well.
Think so?
From Old Boy, yeah, I mean, again, they don't want to be revealing their decks. They are probably just going to go for Zoo. They have the Shaman as well, but I guess the Shaman might not be in their consideration. Save back Pavel as a kind of do-or-die kind of player that might be able to come in with something a little bit special.
I don't know if Old Boy feels comfortable on the Shaman. I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see him bring that out, but he fancies himself as a conservative style of player. The only class he's used so far, however, is that Zoo Warlock, which he reverse swept Planet Odd with a couple of days ago. So will it be that Warlock again? Could it be the Shaman, or will it be a fourth deck that we have yet to see, because we have only seen these 3 decks so far from Evolution? Nah, it's going to be the Shaman. Yeah, I do like the Shaman matchup against Rogue a little bit more than the Warlock matchup. You're not, you know, feeling so worried that if your opponent finds Keleseth and you don't, like we saw in game number 1, that you're going to be at that much of a disadvantage. And the Shaman generally just lines up reasonably well against Rogue. That is why you would bring Shaman to, you know, a Conquest lineup, for instance, because you can try to, you know, ban Druid or Priest, get the edge over on that Rogue.
Yeah, the Devolve can come in handy as well if there's a big Edwin that comes onto the board early on. They have beaten Tempo Rogue with Shaman already. Frozen did it previously, but they have also lost to a Tempo Rogue with the Shaman, so it's only 50-50 at the moment. But Old Boy certainly will want to get at least one on the board, and then you save back Pavel, who's probably going to come in once again with that Zoo if things go south.
He's absolutely dominant on that Zoo deck, but it is important to note Evolution with 4 wins has pretty much guaranteed themselves a spot in that winner's bracket going into the next stage of the tournament. So even if they do lose here, it really does not affect them whatsoever. They've done the work that they needed to do to accomplish the ultimate goal in this first stage of the tournament. But, of course, they don't want to go down without a fight, so Old Boy on the Shaman. Can he get an edge over Kylan's, or can Kylan's have a start like he did in that last game and just put too much pressure on the board for Old Boy to deal with?
I mean, that isn't a start like last game. No Keleseth just yet, and that's what Old Boy is going to be praying. If there is no Keleseth picked up in the first few turns, then there is definitely a chance here for Old Boy. Maelstrom Portal in hand can be pretty good if your opponent is going to play Swashbuckler turn 1. The Mana Tide can be very effective in this matchup just to draw and get a lot of value out of your opponent, who might run out of cards before you do.
Yeah, Kylan's with a really rather poor start here. Old Boy still determining what he wants to throw away. Maelstrom Portal, I would think, is it's a keep. A little bit too tempting to throw that one away, especially when Kylan's could put down Swashbuckler on turn 1, which we do see he draws into.
Yep, and he is just going to play that, so that's going to play perfectly into Old Boy's plan of keeping the Mana Tide, keeping the Maelstrom, sorry. Aya picked up, whilst it's not amazing, I suppose that is another annoying minion for Old Boy to have to deal with at some point. The real question is, do you coin out this Maelstrom Portal in this situation? Because what's your follow-up? Yeah.
The Aya actually is quite good for Kylan's. Similar to Cairn, it is a minion where it is very difficult to remove everything that it puts on the board, right? So go from Aya into Bone Mare on 7, into Lich King on 8, and Kylan's late game curve is looking phenomenal.
And Nullshire Cleric can actually be really good when you get that from a Maelstrom, because of course with a healing totem later on, you might be able to draw some cards with that bad boy, or bad girl, should I say.
Yeah, that is actually phenomenal in Shaman, and generally if you can get a 1-drop that has 2 attack or more than 1 health, you're happy about it.
Unfortunately for Kylan's, though, of course, Patch is already being played, so he won't be able to get the value from the captain.
And Old Boy may have to just forego the Mana Tide this turn, throw down that Flame Tongue Totem, and take what is a reasonably good trade. He can even coin out just a hero power if he wants to set up for another Flame Tongue Totem next turn.
And I think that's the debate he's having with his own brain right now. I mean, it is pretty good being able to trade effectively. You're going into your opponent's turn 4, so they could have a chain gang, for example, but of course, you're not going to be in a great position as the chain gang actually does come out off the top. That's insane. If you're able to get the 1/1 totem, then yes, that would trade in well, but otherwise, your Flame Tongue Totem would just put only 2 damage in.
Yeah, just not effective enough, unfortunately. Old Boy does now have the option of coin into Thing from Below, but that throws off potentially a coin Aya turn. This has been a rather weak start, I would say, from Old Boy. Any game where you don't hit Primal Fin or Jade Claws, or Jade Lightning, you know, before or on turn 4 is generally a bit clunky. The Shaman deck can suffer from, you know, hands much like this.
Yeah, and it would have been a fantastic opportunity if he had have been able to find that early synergy as well, because look at Kylan's hand, look at all that late game he's got there, his Bone Mare, his Lich King. They're going to be extremely difficult for Old Boy to work around as soon as we get to those turn 7s, turn 8s. So Old Boy really needs to get ahead now, try and keep that board clear after turn 6, and hope that he can get a wide enough board to get a very effective Bloodlust. But Stone Touch Sport means that one of these Saronite Chain Gangs are going to be falling. Well,
Wow,
both
we're taking down
yeah.
2. That was phenomenal. Okay. Yeah, Stone Tusk 4 and Patches there would have been the only 2 minions that would have actually allowed for the clear on that second Saronite. So Kylan's has been, top decking his way through this early and mid game, but Old Boy now with a little bit of luck himself. That was a phenomenal portal roll.
And how scared is Kylan's of this Flame Tongue here as well? There is the possibility for SI7 Agent into Shadow Step into SI7 Agent just to clear it off the board, and then you have the board and you have a 3-3.
I mean, it's not so bad because you do have a designated 6, 7, 8 curve, and they're incredibly strong. But I don't know.
No, it doesn't look like Kylan's thinks it's worth it.
Yeah, I
The
do like
3-3
just...
can just contest anyway.
Even though Old Boy hasn't had Patches of his own on the board just yet. So definitely some options this turn now. The Jade Lightning can take down the SI if Old Boy really wants to keep this Flame Tongue Totem on board. Also, option for Mana Tide, coin Thing from below, just put a lot of pressure on. Also, coin Eye of Blackpaw is an option, but the Jade's still at 1-1 for Old Boy.
As much as I like Mana Tide into coin Thing from below, it's been a very weak few turns for your opponent.
Yeah.
So you know there are some big minions in their hand. Is just putting Thing from below too much of a risk, too much of a big target, rather than maybe using a Jade Lightning? Could even coin out a Hero Power as well if you wanted, and then your board is a little bit less weak to a big target like Valspine Slayer, for example.
I don't know, but your board is just less weak in general, right? And I don't think that Old Boy can give up that much initiative by just going for a Jade Lightning, and even a coin Hero Power here just wouldn't be enough. So, expend a little bit more of your resources, go a little bit wider, maybe a little bit punishable by Vilespine Slayer, but you do get that Mana Tide draw engine online. Start to pick up maybe your
Flame Tongue, and he is just going to leave the finding that Doppelgangster Evolve a little bit quick.
Well, Flame Tongue and Mana Tide Totem are both very scary targets. In my opinion, you have to take down Mana Tide every time. That Flame Tongue wasn't representing anything anyway. There were no other minions on board. Very different story. If there's, a couple of 1/1s and a totem on the board, that then you can runner for valuable trades. But there was nothing else. So I would take down the Mana Tide.
Yeah, I think I would definitely want to get rid of my opponent's card draw. Because you know full well that you are ahead at the moment, but if there is a Doppelgangster Evolve, or even if they get to turn 10 and they manage to Doppelgangster into Thrall, for example, that's also a very scary scenario.
Well, I mean, there's just a Devolve, but Devolve's a very, very good tool against Rogue, especially when a Bone Mare comes out on turn 7. You can then devolve away that buff. The Bone Mare potentially can actually receive a stat buff when it's devolved into a 7-drop, but still here, this devolve is going to be useful.
It's scary because Valspine is already a bad statted minion anyway, so you're turning that into a 4-drop that could be considerably better than a 3-4, and then a 6-drop as well. I mean, I hate devolve here, but you're looking at this game and you're saying, well, how on earth am I going to get back? I might have to just hope I do manage to devolve them into some bad 6-drops and a bad 4-drop. Alternatively, the Hero Power, find spell damage and take out the Bone Mare with Jade Lightning, but then you're still leaving it 7-8 on board.
Yeah, it's just, this might be a time where Old Boy needs to get a little bit lucky again.
Well, one way to start searching for a little bit of Lady Luck is a Barnes. And, well, that's a Galactic Crawler. That's certainly not what you want to be looking for from Barnes.
All right, so Old Boy just going for the widest board presence he can have this turn. Still sitting at a really comfortable 27 life. So, yes, there's a lot of pressure on Kylan's board, but not so much that you're worried about him representing lethal yet. So you still have a little bit of time.
You just have a wealth of options now as Kylan's. You can just slam Lich King on the board, or you can play Captain into Valspine. Even another Bone Mare is insane as well. You're so far ahead now.
Well, yeah, now Devolve's looking pretty poor.
Yeah. You're
Pretty
leaving, what,
bad.
a 7-drop, a 6-drop, and a 4-drop.
Oh, an Army of the Dead picked up for Kylan's as well. This is disgusting.
Doppelgangster turning up a little bit late, and no Evolve to accompany him to the party either.
Army of the Dead, just about the best Death Knight card you could hope for in a tempo deck. Even if Old Boy managed to clear this board, which we know is not going to happen, our Kylan's would have an immediate refill.
With
But
Bone
still-
Mare here, you can just carry on this pressure.
Old Boy just needs to try and go wide. Maybe he can find a clear with Bloodlust.
Yeah, I guess that's what he's going for. He's hoping that Kylan's isn't going to be clearing and instead sending damage to face. And he's going to be using Army of the Dead and get to Leroy Jenkins as well.
So gross.
Yeah, that's pretty filthy.
19 damage. 4 Kylan's on board.
And you can play this very safe as well. You can clear off the 3-3. You can just make sure that your opponent isn't going to have a Bloodlust that clears off some of your board. But even if he do Bloodlust at this point, how on earth do you lose?
Yeah, Kylan's does not lose this. Both Maelstrom portals have been used for Old Boy, so even like a devolve into very poor targets for Kylan's plus like a spell damage Maelstrom portal isn't possible.
Yeah, Kylan's will be counting up saying, right, is there a possibility he devolves, there's no taunts, and then he uses a Bloodlust? Does he have a lethal opportunity? There wasn't that there anyway, but I like him just playing very conservative here. Gets a Death Coil for extra damage now next turn, and unless there's an Evolve here, which there isn't.
Can any of these turn into Doomsayer? The Tar Creeper can. So can Edwin.
So can Edwin as well.
But no.
And that was his only hope. Hope for a Doomsayer, but no Doomsayer found. I guess Faceless Shambler was a pretty good result
Yeah,
in the grand scheme of things.
All things considered, this is now a much less scary board, but it is still, I think, just too much for Old Boy to deal with. You are going to kill off the Shambler, of course. Put down 1 Doppelgangster, and again, threaten a very scary Bloodlust. But Bone Mare comes down onto the Stormwatcher, and that's just game, folks.
Yep, and that's going to be Kylan's taking a 2-0 lead now, or RNG taking a 2-0 lead. And Old Boy not able to do what he did the other day and get 3 in a row. And Evolution, their backs are against the wall. They are 2-0 down, but we have seen them in this position before, haven't we, Cora?
We have. The last time we saw it, it was Old Boy who came out with that powerful reverse sweep. But this time, it is going to have to be Pavel. He has already gotten 2 3-0 sweeps of his own yesterday, defeating all of Team Solo Mid very, very easily with his Warlock deck. And it could be Pavel on the Warlock again, this time looking for the come-from-behind win. But if anybody can do it, it is certainly the reigning world champion.
I mean, he's already starting to giggle. It's like he knows that he's going to come and enter the stage here and just ruin the day for RNG.
It's like, all right, this was fun, but
all right,
now let's get down to business.
I let these guys just give you a couple of wins, and now I'll just put you to bed here. Actually, it's going to be Kylan's who's going to be having a few little smirks towards Pavel this time.
Yeah.
Maybe we're going to see serious Pavel. He knows that actually he can't afford to be a little bit risky with his play today. He needs to now go for this. Does have a fantastic record though, 6 wins and 1 loss at the moment. And of course, he does have 2 team kills, so that's absolutely incredible for him.
Yeah, Pavel is just... He is a Hearthstone legend, and he has been
Pavel
pulling some
is
weight.
Probably some sort of a Hearthstone genius. He always makes good lineups, probably the best lineup since all the other regions end up copying whatever he does, and he always wins.
Well, you heard it from Frozen himself. Pavel's own teammates know that Pavel is a feat. He has the best decks. He's got the coolest plays. He hangs out with the chillest Hearthstone players. Dan Gaskin, can Kylan's take him out here?
There is definitely a possibility that this could happen. I mean, if Kylins can just find Keliseth again on 2 and Pavel doesn't, then the game can just play itself. Even a world champion can't come back from an opponent getting Keliseth over him in some scenarios. Fun fact, my record against Pavel, I'm actually 1-0.
Really?
Yep.
Did you play him in the Tavern Brawl?
No, I played him on ladder once. And,
Oh, wow.
It wasn't actually an imposter. It was actually him. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
All right.
I know. It's,
So,
I don't mean to brag.
essentially,
I'm like a world champion.
you're like the world champion.
Yeah, like pretty much. Like it's like wrestling belts, right? He holds it as soon as he loses one game, they get it.
You know what?
There we go.
I beat Kriparian on ladder once.
Well, there you go. That is an equal accolade, I'd
It
say.
was something, let me tell you. But it is going to be Pavel playing this Warlock deck yet again. A lot of this is going to come down to early mulligans, early starts, who can get the better early presence on the board and try to maintain that tempo throughout the course of the game.
And sometimes getting a bad 3 cards or bad 4 cards in your opening mulligan is actually a little bit of a blessing because it makes your decision making very easy. It's just, all right, I'm going to toss all of these away and hope for something good. If you get some cards that are mediocre or that are okay in the matchup, you might keep them, and that is a possibility that you won't draw Keliseth, for example. So it was a blessing for Kylins just having a pretty trash opening mulligan. And now he ends up with, well, it's okay. A Firefly is perfect to get things going. A Backstab can help as well, certainly against something like a Flame Imp from Pavel. But that's not the draw that Pavel would have been wanting.
Pavel drew patches. This can't be real life. Pavel's the kind of guy that makes fun of people that draw patches.
Yep. And the thing is, even if Pavel were to lose, I think he'd still be laughing about it. He's that kind of guy. But the Void Walker off the top at least combats this Firefly very effectively for him. And, well, you know...
All right, things are a little
there
bit
we go.
more even now.
There we go.
Okay.
A tit for tat. Patches for a patches. Although the patches does mean that he can just use Backstab and patches here if he wants to. But wow, taking a very aggressive line here and sending a Cold Blood onto the Firefly.
Now the patches from Pavel is essentially a Mortal Coil. And there is a Keliseth right on time. Okay, there's the World Championship draw as we know.
Yeah, Pavel doing more Pavel things and already starting to giggle. What? Also, why is he always stood up? He looks very questionable.
It's like we're seeing the dark side of Pavel.
Oh my.
This is not what I'm used to.
This is a new storyline. Pavel's not been in this situation before.
I think he got tired of us talking about his facial expressions.
Someone protect the younglings.
No, the children.
Both patches then have come onto the board now without any sort of buffs, but I guess Pavel's actually worked out really well for him. He's going to be looking now for those buffed up minions from Keliseth. Alternatively, does just have Darkshow Councilman, which plays very well onto this board because Kylins having that Backstab and Shadow Step just sitting there doing nothing works out excessively well for Pavel.
Yeah, not what Kylins wants right now for sure. With the deckhand pickup and the backstab, this Councilman can be cleared off, and I would expect it will be because this represents a great deal of damage over the next several turns from Pavel. And one edge now that Pavel has, well, of course he has the Keliseth in play, but he also has the ability to draw additional cards every turn. So it's less likely that Pavel misses a turn than Kylins does.
Yeah, look how much resources Kylins is having to use, and he's just got 2 cards left. One of those is essentially a dead card at this point. The Bone Mare's not going to come into the equation for a couple more turns at least. So Pavel can really just take the initiative here and get on the board. He needs something significant, and I guess that's pretty significant because it's been buffed up. You can afford a tap as well. And then Doomguard as a follow-up next turn potentially is going to be brilliant for Pavel.
It's not a Sarnite Chain Gang off the top, but it's not bad at all.
Ooh.
And I do wonder if Kylins is going to feel pressured to Shadow Step his Flame Elemental and go for an Edwin this turn.
I think you have to. We were saying that that's a dead card, that Shadow Step, but I guess this is the best use of it. You can at least make that Edwin somewhat of a threat that can contest this board and force your opponent to at least start trading.
Maybe throws Pavel off of the straightforward Doomguard turn in favor of a Soulfire.
Unfortunately, no patches, of course, so it looks like Pavel's just going to go pretty wide here. I imagine trade off
This is fine
the
too.
Flame Elemental as well. Yeah.
Just utilize your natural advantage of having played Keliseth. 1/6/6 Edwin is not going to be enough to win Kylan's the game.
Keliseth does turn up for Kylins, but I guess it's not too late at this point. He is going to be in a position where he is drawing card after card and hoping they're going to be significant, so at least now they're going to have the buff as well. But ideally, Kylins is going to be praying that something survives here, but he knows full well it won't, because there is more than enough for Pavel to be able to clear it.
Yeah, Pavel going to absolutely keep initiative on this board. Chooses to tap after seeing that Bone Mare draw. Just a little bit too valuable to get rid of Bone Mare and Soulfire with Doomguard this turn, but picks up only another Flame Imp.
Notice how quickly Pavel plays as well, by the way. He's in a situation where his team is 2-0 down, and yet he is still tapping instantly as soon as he sees the Bone Mare. He knows full well what cards he's looking for, what cards he doesn't want to be throwing away.
I really do think that just speaks to the level of experience that Pavel has on this deck in particular. He knows exactly what his game plan is, what he needs to do to beat another tempo deck. And it certainly doesn't hurt that Kylans has had some pretty poor draws so far.
Yeah, nothing to play, just a naked Bone Mare, as it were. It's going to be perfect for Pavel now. He can get value out of this Bone Mare. And then next turn, he does have the possibility of playing Doomguard.
Give that poor Bone Mare some +4/+4 pants.
Another Shadow Step. I mean, actually...
No. There's no actually here. The Leroy, if it's coming down, it's killing off this Flame Imp. You cannot hold this, I think, and expect that you're going to find lethal. It just requires too many cards.
It does, unfortunately. Because it's not like you Leroy and then you bring him back and he's still got the 7 damage as well. When you bring it back to your hand, he's only got the 6, of course. So there isn't even going to be enough, even if you found something. So you might have to use the Leroy here just to kill off the 8-2.
But if you do that, I think you might as well just concede at that point. You've given up far too many valuable resources. Your win condition, yeah, just concede at that point. All right, perhaps the beginning of a reverse sweep. Pavel takes the first game for Evolution, finally able to get this rogue out of there for RNG. Now it's Leo and Biza left to try and counter the world champion. It's going to be Biza up to bat.
Darth Pavel is in his seat, and it is a terrifying thing to be witnessing. But Biza, she's done pretty well herself, has a fantastic record. But maybe we're going to be seeing the Zoo lock of her own, the discard lock that has run rampant so far in this tournament.
Rather
she's
strange
gone
build.
3-0 with it so far. Yet to actually drop a game with her discard Zoo. 4 wins consecutively.
Yeah, used the Zoo and the Rogue. Neither of those decks are banned for RNG. Evolution chose to ban away. Instead, their Druid and their Mage.
And I still think the banning phase was actually really smart and really intelligent from Evolution.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll be calling them Wonder Kids if they still manage to find a victory here today. But it does mean that if Biza is to fail here with her discard lock, then they do have the potential of playing that Priest. But we saw what happened yesterday when Priest went into Zoo lock. Okay, maybe that Lady Luck wasn't on the side of the Priest.
Yeah, purple just was not going to win that game.
No.
Well, there were actually a couple of things that purple could have done very differently, a couple of small missteps that actually ended up being quite substantial. But as we can see, just a couple of differences between Biza's build of Zoo Warlock and Pavel's. There is a Howl Fiend as well as a couple of Silverware Golems. Not all of the cards are known in this Warlock as well, so it is possible that you see a second copy of Howl Fiend, perhaps a copy of Clutch Mother Zavas, maybe even more discard mechanics.
Yeah, and Biza has had... She's been very fortunate with this discard lock. I don't think anyone would doubt that. I think it was day 1, wasn't it, where she had like 4 of her cards discarded because of Howl Fiend. And
Top
then
deck Sarnite Chain Gang.
top deck 4 into 5 into 6, and it just went very, very successfully for her.
I believe it was Chain Gang into Despicable Dreadlord, into the only 2 cards being Doomguard and Bloodsail in hand.
But I mean,
on turn 6.
if we're going to talk about two players that have been pretty fortunate this tournament, then we're in for a very incredible game here, with Pavel also having a lot of luck on his side so far.
Both players have pretty good starts. A lot of mirrored cards here. No Kelesets in sight, being the important thing to note. So no player has that much of an edge right now.
At least Biza is going to be able to potentially get patches on here just to get a nice trade, and actually the Akaris veteran is going to make that even better. But I suppose actually in theory it doesn't make too much of a difference. You can trade in the patches, everything's going to die anyway.
Yeah, this just forces the Firefly trade into the Bloodsail.
Yep. But the Councilman is the first big minion to be put on the board. And already we're seeing how quickly this game is unfolding.
Yeah, Biza's only option is to respond with Howlfiend. If Pavel can take advantage of these discards here, he can get rid of some very high quality cards from Biza's hand.
Yeah, how desperate are you to start discarding them, though? I think you make the value trade potentially with the Councilman here.
Into the Akaris veteran.
Into the veteran, yeah. And then you know full well that this Howlfiend is going to not be touching your Councilman, at least for another turn. So you can afford to discard one just by the sheer attack that they're going to have to go for.
Pavel thinking it over.
Okay,
Wow.
setting it to face as well. Really just playing the aggressive game. That's the longest he's taken on any turn, I might add.
I think so. It's going into turn 5 for Biza as well, which Pavel needed to definitely put some consideration into that since she still has coin in hand.
And Biza has been playing very fast as well, I might add, and she was almost instantly coining out that Dreadlord, but suddenly there was something clicked for her, and she said, actually, this isn't a great plan. As she goes for the discard, and of course, the Silverware Golem is going to be tossed away. It wouldn't be Biza if that didn't happen.
Well, the Howlfiend going in means that all 3 cards left in hand were going to be discarded no matter what. And now she does have a board lead, but she's out of resources in hand to utilize. So this is going to be Pavel's time. If he can take back this board and Biza is left having to, fill out her turns with life taps, then she will be naturally developing less on board every turn than he can.
Oh.
Wish you were at 6, don't you?
Yeah, that Malkazar's Imp would be really, really nice here. And it's whether Pavel, because of you've seen that,
Wow.
you just delay your turn ever so slightly. You know your opponent's out of cards now. They're going to be tapping. You still have patches as well. You can still trade into this Doom Guard. Or you can make a value trade if you want as well.
I think the value trade may be on the table here.
But what are you trading into? The Silverware Golem to leave the Howlfiend up to potentially throw away more cards from your opponent a little bit later?
That's my thought, but then how worried are we about 4 health versus 3 health? And it's likely that whatever Biza draws, she can just play. So perhaps the Howlfiend won't get a discard anyway, but Pavel is going to leave that option on the table.
The Saronite Chain Gang makes this a lot more awkward now for Pavel.
Yeah, it sure does.
But he is going to be drawing 2 cards with this Malkazar's Imp. So it's not the end of the world. He definitely has the advantage at the moment in that he's going to be generating quite a lot of value with this card draw.
He will be, but he's going to lose his Darkshire Councilman to a Saronite Chain Gang member. Dreadlord's a great pickup. Biza going to remain ahead, however, just from how these minions on board interact. The Doom Guards trade off, the Howlfiend goes into the Malkazar.
And of course, ordering very good there from Biza. I know it's a very simple one, but
Still,
I've seen people make worse mistakes.
absolutely, you can trip up. But now,
Ooh.
Pavel has quite a good turn as well. The Saronite Chain Gang will be discarded from hand once the Howlfiend is damaged at the end of the turn. And now the Dreadlord trades into the Councilman.
And this is where the Howlfiend can come to punish you ever so slightly. I guess picking up the Crystal Weaver here will allow a slight buff, so it means that now the Halfiend is still going to survive this turn. But do you want it to survive? I guess it doesn't matter too much. It means you can't tap this turn, basically. Because
Whatever
if you trade
draw
in and
will
tap,
just be discarded.
Yeah.
So, I mean, either you kill off this Voidwalker or you just do nothing. So you kill off the Voidwalker. And then just send the Councilman to face.
So
and unfortunately, the Dreadlord will then kill off the Halfiend.
Yeah, the thing is, so she's valued that extra 1 health over a card, which is interesting considering it's going to die next turn anyway. So you could have just traded it in first with the Voidwalker. It would have died. And then you could have tapped and you would have had that extra card in your hand.
Well, but she would have had to discard the Crystal Weaver.
True.
From the draw.
Yeah.
And I think she's just saying then the average card in my deck is probably not better than a 5/4 body on board. But, you know, looking at the later stages of the game, a couple copies of Bone Mare, maybe a Blood Reaver Gul'dan, Despicable Dreadlord. There's some really good cards she's got left in deck.
Needs to draw him soon, though, because Pavel's starting to get to run away with this one. And he's not using the Soulfire as well to clean up the entire board. He feels like this Soulfire could be used very effectively next turn instead. That's a little bit of a whiff. She does at least have another draw. Soulfire can start competing with the board a little bit better.
But Pavel's still going to be slightly ahead here. Going into turn 9, there are some, again, potentially very good draws that he can start picking up.
Now he can tap into a buffed up minion as well because of Keleseth. Pavel still has the lead here. This is going to be increasingly hard for Baiza to get back into. She needs to find, what, a second Doomguard perhaps?
In case you didn't know who the star of this show was, it's Prince Keleseth.
Yeah, very much.
He wanted his moment.
Doomguard would be fantastic here, and
There
she
it
does
is.
find it as well. Okay, so that starts competing with the board once again. And, I mean, this game is just going to play itself, to be honest, Cora. It's just going to be a case of who can tap into something that's more significant than the other player.
Yeah, I mean, we are at literally identical health totals right now, and the boards, well, once everything trades off from Pavel's side, he's left with a 1-2, so maybe Pavel's still slightly ahead right now, will be further ahead after this turn.
And
There's the draw. That's what
may
he's been
well
looking for.
Kill this game off as well.
Looks like he's going to.
Yeah.
I don't think Baiza comes back from being this far behind now.
I mean, theoretically, she could tap into a 1-drop and then find a Bone Mare of her own. And at least that would keep her alive for maybe one more turn, perhaps. But Pavel now dealing all the damage and getting ever closer to his second victory. Baiza can start looking for some answers, but tap needs to find a Bone Mare, and even a Bone Mare doesn't keep you alive. So it's going to be 2-2. And we're here again, Cora, in another situation.
I feel like we've been here a couple of times so far. This is Evolution looking at potentially their second 3-0 come from behind sweep, ending in a 3-2, of course. First time it was Old Boy. Pavel got his 3-0 sweep yesterday against TSM. We could be looking at his third triple kill.
And what, oh my god, it would be absolutely insane if Pavel was able to pick this one up. It would have been a perfect plan from Evolution of the way that they banned out this Burn Mage as well. The one deck that actually has done very well against the tempo-orientated decks from RNG.
The only deck left from RNG that we have seen is their Taunt Warrior. So could it be Leo on the Warrior, or will he be bringing out something that we have not seen yet, being Paladin, Shaman, Hunter, or Priest?
I mean, if Priest is given to you, it feels weird not to take it, considering that Priest does do so fantastically against pretty much everything.
Leo has played this Warrior before. But 4 wins and 4 losses. His record is right at 50% right
非
now.
常强，非常厉害。每次天梯遇到他都吊打我，然后我们队第一金牌打手，估计我们俩跟着他混。我们都安排好了，他打完之后上去叫我们吃午饭就行了，然后我们就不用上场了。他一个人全把对面解决了。OK， 不只是全都是圈，在我们基地也是最高的。我们基地所有分布加起来好像都没有他高，所有人对比一下，不止高，而且特别厉害。 现在国服积分第1，非常强。总之就是非常非常非常非常厉害，我们都称为李尬的，高的力。
Godly then. Well, I'm going to call him that for the rest of this series, I think, because he kicks a lot of butt, apparently.
I'm going to call him that for the rest of the tournament. He is really, really, really awesome.
Really, really awesome.
It's great to actually get some insight into the team dynamic for RNG, because up until now, we had been assuming that Baiza was taking a leadership position, because she was the one that we are most familiar with from the Western scene. But no, it is Leo. And, you know, it didn't quite come to fruition. Their plan, they did have to step up and actually play some games today. But Kylan's got his job done. He won 2. Baiza, unfortunately, her Warlock just couldn't keep pace with Pavel's. But now we've got the god himself piloting what is thought to be the best deck in the format. It is a Razakus Priest, but Pavel is a god too.
I love that he tries to keep back his laughter as well, so much that he chortled there a little bit, and you saw him kind of swallow his laugh just to say, actually, I probably shouldn't let my opponent know I've got Keleseth just yet. Just in case that changes their mulligan plan. But at least there is a little bit of anti-aggro for Leo here, or King Lee, should I say. He's got Shadow with Pain. He has Holy Nova there as well. I mean, Holy Nova isn't running every priest deck at the moment.
No, it is certainly not. That is a bit of a tech choice. And Pavel could have gone with Quen Keleseth, but when you've got 2 Flame Imps in your opening hand, that is nearly an insurmountable amount of pressure for the priest to overcome on turn 2.
But I mean, if Keleseth on 2 is the best for an aggro deck, I guess Raza on 5 is pretty important for the priest as well. At least Leo here does have the option to use a Shadow of Pain just to get rid of one of these 3/2s, and at least he's not going to be taking too much damage from his opponent. But yesterday, the game plan was clear from Evolution. They wanted to leave the priest up because they knew full well their opponent would use it at some point, and they felt that their decks, the 3 that they've showed so far, were very good against priest. So maybe we are going to see the perfect game plan from Evolution once again.
It's absolutely possible. But Pavel's start is going to be very, very difficult to beat without the perfect responses.
Shadow of Pain is having to be used here. The other tools that Leo is going to be needing to find throughout this game is, of course, things like Spirit Lash can help him gain some health. Dragonfire Potion is going to be very influential at some point as well. Those are the things you're going to be searching through your deck to find, and he can do that now using Shadow Visions.
Ooh, the Potion of Madness pickup. That is huge for Leo.
Yeah, that was a massive snap pick as well. That's just something that's very influential right here, right now. And that is meaning a lot of damage has now been stalled from Leo. Although it was looking incredible for Pavel, having both of those Flame Imps on board early on, then getting Keleseth as well. Leo has somewhat stalled this.
He's had quite a strong start. And the Holy Nova, like we were saying, not an automatic inclusion in this deck. Very good against Zoo in a vacuum, but then you look at how the Keleseth buffs apply, and it does become slightly weaker.
Pavel gets the Malcazar's Imp on the board there, but what does he throw away? Blood Reaver Golden. I mean, I guess that's not the end of the world. There's 2 sides to this story, right? You could be saying, all right, this is a priest, so this game could go on quite long, and the Blood Reaver Golden might be really important and influential, but if you're going to win this game, it's probably by beating the priest down before you get to those later stages of the game anyway.
Still just feels bad.
Yeah, it does, yeah. It feels very bad.
It's like Blood Reaver Gul'dan is just discard fodder in every Zoo deck.
I mean, it was, wasn't it Kibler who threw away Blood Reaver Gul'dan on the first ever release stream?
Yes, I believe it was.
So I think it's just been destiny from that point that Blood Reaver Gul'dan always has to get discarded. Dirty Rat being included here as well from RNG in their priest. So we are learning a lot, but I know everyone's been banning priests, so we haven't been finding too much out. But we are now learning what teams have actually been bringing in their priest and what they thought they might be facing with the priest.
Seems like they expected a lot of aggro.
Yeah, well, I guess the only way your priest is going to be left up is in this kind of scenario where your opponent is just hoping to run through you with aggressive decks.
Dirty Rat can also be a valuable tool against Quest Mage.
Yep.
maybe that's a scenario where they leave up the Priest, is if they're banking on the Quest Mage taking wins against decks like Priest and Druid.
I mean, we look at throughout RNG's decks anyway, and they have 2 Dirty Rats in their Druid as well. So clearly they were fearing something coming into this tournament.
But Dirty Rat and Thoughtsteal. The Thoughtsteal is throwing me a little bit. Pavel, in the meantime, is throwing some very valuable cards. Cairn Bloodhoof been discarded. The patches you're not worried about. But the Cairn, that feels pretty bad.
Holy Nova gets his value, and Leo is still on 29 health. And Pavel is chunking away his own damage here. He needs something to survive to go into his Bone Mare turn, that's for sure. I guess he can go pretty wide.
I think Pavel may be just a little bit shaken now. Last 2 games he won pretty easily. This one,
Oh, wow. Dragonfire Potion as well.
I don't know. I don't know if he can win this one. He just seems way too far behind.
I mean, of course, Dragonfire Potion doesn't kill the Councilman, but then you have a Silence to make the Councilman just a 1-1 after the Dragonfire Potion anyway.
You just silence it now and then Dragonfire.
Yep. Yes, you could. That would be absolutely fine.
And the Dirty Rat first. Oh my goodness. Pulls the Bone Mare. That gets killed as well. I think the reign of Pavel may be coming to an end.
Yep, it was King Pavel, but I think the story today is going to be about
the Bone Mare's buff. What
King
am I talking
Lee.
about? Not going to be the Dragonfire turn. Holding back just a little bit.
But I mean, even because of the Shadow Word Death, it doesn't really matter. The Silence is going to come out, and then you save back the Dragonfire Potion because you know your opponent's going to want to go wide as well next turn.
And especially since you saw that Bone Mare come out as a 6/6. Take the time to deviate. Death that away. Try to make Pavel expend even more resources this turn.
This Doom Guard is just going to fall to this Dragonfire Potion. Even though Pavel's looking at this saying, actually, okay, maybe I'm back into this game. Dragonfire is going to make very short work of it.
I mean, Pavel does get to develop next turn. And Leo is left with only 2 cards in hand, 3 after the draw. So if Pavel can build up another big board and Leo doesn't have the resources to deal with it, Pavel's not out of this yet.
No, definitely still potential. He is drawing minions that are more impactful as well because of Keleseth too.
It is a bit unfortunate that he doesn't have Cairn or Blood Reaver Gul'dan as those big bombs. But going wide is quite good as well.
This actually works out really well against the Potion of Madness in Leo's hand as well.
Yeah, giving the Akros Veteran buff to the Voidwalker is beautiful. But there's Shadow Reaper Anduin.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O.
There was now a time limit on Pavel's side as well, because even if he does generate quite a large board, there's going to be the possibility for Leo just to beat down Pavel across maybe 2 or 3 turns, depending on what he draws following this Shadow Reaper Anduin. And he's going to be able to stall with the Saronite Chain Gang as well, and Pavel's probably going to be tapping to look for more options. With Firefly coming onto the board, that means there is a target for this Potion of Madness too. But a considerable amount of damage available for sure. At least the 5/6 is going to fall to Shadow Reaper Anduin.
The 5/6 dies, Anduin's hero power kills off the Captain, the Firefly goes into the Voidwalker, and then Pavel's just left with a Flame Elemental and an Akros Veteran.
And then follow up, you've got Kazakus as well.
Pavel with the concede. He doesn't even wait for a second. Sees Anduin comes out and knows that he has lost this game. And as a result, Evolution has lost their first series in this tournament. Godly has certainly gotten the job done. RNG with a 3-2 victory. They're going to go to a 4-1 record, now tied match scores with Evolution.
Storyline I'm going for is Leo Skywalker versus Darth Pavel. I think that's the situation. The dark side has finally been taken down, and RNG will now be tied at the top of the leaderboards.